so much more fun when both the speakers and our live classes join me for a dance party in that countdown intro. So thank you all for doing that, everybody. My name is Jesse. I'm your virtual adventure guide here with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. And I know we've got a new audience today joining us from around the world. And so if you are new to us, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. And today's program really epitomizes all of that smashed together, because today we are joined live by the amazing Sea Women Expeditions team joining us north off the coast of Norway, 300 plus kilometers north of the Arctic Circle, where they are studying and learning about orcas. There's a huge number of this apex predator of the ocean off the coast, and we are so lucky today to be joined by some of their coolest scientists and people on board. So I'm not going to steal their thunder. I'm going to turn it over to Susan Eaton, director of the entire Sea Women Expeditions team, to introduce our special guest speakers today before we dive into our presentation. So Susan, welcome to the broadcast, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's so lovely to be here, and it's so great to talk to you and all these students from around the world. We're really excited. We're really far north, 70 degrees north latitude, and 350 kilometers above the Arctic Circle. Sea Women has been on the ocean for about 10 days. We've got another 10 days to go. And we are studying the ocean. We're studying physical properties of the ocean, and we're also studying orcas, the apex predators in the ocean, who come here every winter to feast on the herring. So I'm going to turn it over to two of my colleagues in a minute, but I'll just tell you who we are really briefly. We're a Canadian-based organization. We're volunteer-led, and we're volunteer-run, if you will. All the women on the team are participating in the expedition, putting together the program. And the two women you're going to meet, Sarah and Whitley, have put together the Orca program, the behavioral program to study orcas in the north here as they're feeding on herring. I'll let them tell you more about it in a minute, but in a summary, we are a team of 34 sea women, non-binary and two-spirit people who are studying the ocean in the Arctic. And it's a really exciting place to be. We are from 15 countries. We speak about 15 languages, and we're running in 3 back-to-back cohorts. We're on cohort 2 right now. Cohort 3 starts next Monday, and it's really, really exciting. The youngest member of our team is 20 years old, and the oldest member is 70. And we're all in the water with fin whales and humpback whales and orcas for the past 10 days and for the next 10 days. I'm going to turn the presentation over to Sarah and Whitley, who will introduce themselves. But Sarah is a British marine biologist. She's also the co-leader of the expedition. I forgot to mention that I'm from Canada, and I live in Yellowknife in the Northwest Territories in Canada. Sarah's from England, a marine biologist, and she's the co-leader of the expedition and the co-leader of the Orca behavioral program. Whitley, who's right behind me, is from the United States, and she's a graphic artist with a focus on sustainable design, and she's the co-leader of the Orca program too. So I'm going to turn it over to these amazing team members who are going to tell you all about Orca. Orcas or Orca, both words are correct when they're plural. So take it over, Whitley and Sarah.
All right. Hello, everybody. Again, my name is Whitley Mike. My hometown is Winter, Wisconsin. I'm from the States, and this is my co-leader, Sarah.
So I'm Sarah, and I'm from the Lake District in the UK, in England, and I'm a marine biologist and marine mammal rescuer as well.
All right. Well, thank you, Jesse. Let's flip to the next slide. So we are going to be talking to you about observing orca behavior in Arctic Norway. Next slide, please. So again, this is our mission patches. As Susan mentioned, I'm a graphic artist and creative director with a focus in sustainable design. So observing orca behavior has a lot of roots in sustainability, and we're here to help support that. So next slide, please. So for the first, where we're going to start is we're actually going to start off telling you where we are and why we are conducting research here, and who is the subject of our research, which I'm sure you've already figured out. And then Sarah is going to walk you through what we are doing here within our Orca behavioral project. Next slide, please. All right, where we are, the Arctic Norway. So we are actually currently tucked in to a very quiet, calm fjord. But during the day, it's not always so. So one of the things that we are doing is actually we're getting out in the sea. We live on a beautiful ship. If you guys haven't noticed already, the ship is actually behind us. We're in the bridge where the captain steers our ship. It's an amazing research vessel and it's been an amazing home for us. But we have been basically transversing the fjords. So next slide, please. So this is a map of the Arctic Circle. Like Jesse had mentioned, we are 350 kilometers above the Arctic Circle. If you look down kind of in the bottom of the map there, you'll see 3 countries, a blue country, a pink country, and a green one. So that's Norway, Sweden, and Finland. And we're, of course, in Norway. And we are just above that Arctic Circle within this map. Next slide, please. And this is a little bit better of an image of where we are exactly. So we've been spending most of our time in the fjords. We've started off in Tromsø, which is on the bottom left of the screen there, that little icon location dot. And if you follow that purple path, that's what we've been doing. We've been exploring all the fjords, looking for orca, looking for humpbacks and fin whales to conduct research. So we've been all over the place on our research vessel. And why we are here, as Susan had mentioned, we are here for the 2022 winter herring run. So herring this time of year, they come in the fjords, they become really condensed here, which creates a really great feeding opportunity for megafauna like whales, like orca. So we are here to bake on that smorgasbord. I know that's a Swedish term, but we'll use it here in Norway to see orca, see them feeding, and hopefully see some really cool behaviors as a result. Next slide, please. So this is a little snapshot on herring. We're going to get into this a little bit more, but again, there are so much herring here that a lot of big animals are coming in, a lot of orca, humpbacks, and of course fin whales, and humans too. Humans do benefit from this influx of herring into the fjords this time of year. Next slide, please. So we're here to observe the North Atlantic type 1 and type 2 orca and offshore orca. So actually there are 3 types of orca here. Next slide. So when we say orca, of course, we mean that they are the largest member of the dolphin family. They're also known as killer whales. You can use either term, totally fine. And as Jesse had mentioned, they are the apex predator of the ocean. They are top of the food chain. Nobody is above them. And there are different ecotypes, and each ecotype has its own culture, language, and hunting strategies. And if we go to the next slide, this is actually all the ecotypes that can be found around the world. Though most orca look similar, there are various differences, whether it's size, whether it's skin tone, whether it's markings, that make them different and make them a part of a certain type of ecotype. And we are looking at the bottom 3. So we're looking at type 1 North Atlantic orca, type 2 North Atlantic orca, and then offshore orca. So 3 different ecotypes come into these fjords to feed. And how do they feed? So they have this really cool technique called carousel feeding. One of the most interesting things about orca is that they're actually defined by their hunting strategies. Orcas all over the world have different hunting strategies to become really efficient predators. And here they use carousel feeding to round up herring. So what they do is they find herring, and they actually, as a team, work together to create a ball of herring, and they wrap themselves around it, and they do techniques like flashing their belly, which makes the herring feel like they have to go to the surface because they think they reached the top. And they work together, and then they slap at the herring with their tails, strike them, stun them, and then pick them off one by one. And our guides actually told us yesterday that they're extremely picky eaters, and they only eat the fish that they want to eat, the best of the best. So in a lot of ways, they work together and feed like humans, which is really cool. All right, so I'm going to turn it off to Sarah, who's going to discuss our behavioral program.
Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so why have we come here to observe killer whales in Norway? So swimming with wild cetaceans is very popular, and cetaceans is basically what we call whales, dolphins, and porpoises. And that's become a popular activity to swim with them. Many people would consider it environmentally friendly to swim with them in the wild, much better than doing so in captivity, where obviously there's lots of welfare concerns. The impacts of this, though, is not really very well known. Behavioural studies and ethograms are scarce. An ethogram is basically a catalogue of behaviours where you observe an animal, so you carry out a behavioural study, identify the behaviours that the animal is carrying out, and you'd list them in a table, basically, and then that provides you a foundation to then observe the animal again, and you use your ethogram to record it. I have an ethogram on a future slide to explain it a bit better. And obviously we want to carry out these behavioural studies because here in Norway, whale watching is unregulated. There are guidelines, but in order to manage the activity the best way possible, then there probably should be regulations for encounters. And then with previous studies, our advisor Chantal created the first ethogram for killer whale behaviour up here in northern Norway. And on the screen there, you can see the 8 interactive behaviours that she previously identified when she carried out her studies for her master's thesis. And of those behaviours, there's belly up, encircling, bubble release, head orientation, close approach, eye contact, calling, and echolocate. And whilst we've been here documenting orca behaviour, we have experienced some of those interactive behaviours. All of those interactive behaviours are what we call affiliative behaviours, so friendly interactive behaviours. And to be honest, we've also had loads of encounters where there's been no interactive behaviours and the whales don't seem to care that we're there at all, and they just swim by and carry on doing whatever it is that they were doing. So with Chantal's previous studies, it was recommended that in the future, we also try to identify individual animals involved in those encounters. So if we can identify them, we can build behavioural profiles for individual orcas. We can do age analysis. So do adults behave differently to juveniles towards human snorkelers? Sex analysis. Do males behave differently to females towards human snorkelers? Do type 1, type 2 and offshore orcas behave differently when they have these encounters with humans? So one of the key things is that it was strongly recommended to intensify studies on swim encounters and to monitor them to deliver baseline data to inform management activities. Next slide. So the reason we're here are obviously to collect video footage of our encounters so that we can then investigate these interspecific interactive behaviours during our swim encounters. So an interspecific interactive behaviour is basically just any sort of interaction between 2 animals of different species. So if you pet your dog at home, that is an interspecific interaction because you've got an interaction between a dog and a human, 2 different species, and it's exactly the same as what we're doing here. So we've got human snorkelers in the water, killer whales, and we're seeing how they interact with us, if they interact at all, because as I said, a lot of the time they don't interact at all. So this adds to baseline data that then can inform management activities, which is all really useful to help keep ecotourism sustainable. Next slide. So I mentioned ethograms. So this is what we're going to create based on our observations. So when we're out in the water, we're out there with our GoPro cameras and we're collecting video footage, and then we can look for those interactive behaviours that have already been previously identified by Chantal, the scientist that's one of our advisors who's based in New Zealand, who carried it out before. We're also looking for any new interactive behaviours too, because we might see new ones. And what we'll do is list all of those behaviours to help us construct an ethogram so that we can then review the footage again and use our ethogram to start recording behaviour in a more scientific way, where we'll use a 1-0 sampling technique. And then finally, we'll review the footage a final time where we try to identify individual orcas as individuals, as males, females, juvenile, adult, type 1, type 2, and offshore orcas. Okay, next slide. So this is just an example of what an ethogram looks like. As I said, it's basically just a table. You need to have observed the behaviour of the animal to begin with in order to put your behaviours along the top, because you need to know what they are so that you can list them. And then you'll have intervals listed down the side as well. So on this example, we've got time intervals of 0 to 1 minute, 1 to 2 minutes. Those intervals can be any length. We would probably even in this case use individual videos as an interval. And all we do is if we see one of those behaviours during that interval, so like if we were watching a video where we were encountering orcas, and in the first 60 seconds, we noticed eye contact and echolocating. We record it by putting a 1 in eye contact and echolocate because we saw that behaviour, and a 0 in the rest because we didn't see those behaviours. And we're only interested in whether we saw the behaviour or not how many times it happened in the interval, just whether it occurred in the interval. Okay. So these are just some examples of our collected data so far. So you can see these two individuals. You can't tell so much on this one because my GoPro was on wide angle. I've learned from that, and I've learned to turn it to, I now have it on linear and cinematic, because wide angle actually makes them look a lot further away than they really are. And they were not that far away. They swam, came close approach, they turned, and they gave me eye contact before swimming away.
Yeah, the beauty of our program too is we have all team members actually collecting footage for us, which is really incredible.
Yeah, everybody's armed with GoPros, chest plates, handle sticks. That one was filmed today. Mm-hmm. And then this is one where you can see, so the others showed some interactive behaviours that were directed towards us, some of the friendly behaviours. And then in this one, you've got a group of killer whales that simply swam by, because there's lots of encounters where they just don't seem...
They got better things to do.
Yeah, they're busy, they're getting on with their day, and we're just bobbing around, and they just swim by and ignore us.
Yeah. So yeah, we have 10 more days to get more collected data. So that what we mean by days, just footage, right? So we're collecting footage to be able to analyze post-expedition to see how many behaviors we did or didn't receive with our footage.
Yeah, because I think the interactive behaviors we can spot and identify is important, but equally, how many encounters where, they just swam by, and, or encounters if there were avoidance behaviors or things like that, all that kind of thing is going to be relevant. I was just going to say, this picture that you've got on screen now, that was taken by our team member, Aya, and that's me in the water holding a GoPro, come to the surface to capture them at the surface as well. But yeah, it was a great photo that Aya got there.
Yeah. All right, before we turn it over to Q&A, we have a special guest. So Amy, Barb, come on in. So Amy is a Sea Women's Expedition team member, and she actually has her sons in a classroom. So we wanted to give her space to give them a shout out.
Wache, everyone. My name is Amy Cloutier. I am from the First Nation of Waskaganish, which is located within the territory of Iuishchi in northern Quebec, Canada. I was so happy to hear that so many of you are interested in what we're doing here in the Arctic Circle. I'm here right now to give a big shout out to my big son and my little son, Skylar Quachigan and Chasen Quachigan. I love you both so much, and you both make me so proud. And I really hope that you're watching right now and that you're proud of Mama too. So thank you very much, and see you later, fellow.
I'm quite sure they're proud of you. I think we're all really proud of all of you. This is a really incredible expedition. And thank you so much for welcoming in. That was such a special part of the broadcast. Sarah, Whitley, this is amazing. What a incredible presentation. Just stunning imagery you guys are capturing. And again, the focus on orca is so special. They really are the most incredible creature in the oceans. I really encourage our audience, look up an orca skull when you're done this program, because it's the most metal skull in the history of nature. There's no dinosaur. T-Rex doesn't have a skull that comes close to being as cool as an orca one. So check them out, guys. We've got a bunch of YouTube classes. If you guys want to let us know where you're joining from, share questions there. We've got 25 minutes together to dive with all your queries. You've got a couple of live classes with us on camera as well, so welcome in, folks. I'm going to start by just diving in on the graphic design aspect, because it's just such a unique part of a program to have a graphic designer. How are you guys incorporating this and your skills into the Sea Women expeditions generally? How did you get involved with graphic design in general? It's so special that you guys have that on the ship.
Well, you know, a good part of our learning journey, anyone's learning journey, is visual, right? And there's so much that can be done with graphic design to support research projects and make things more accessible. So one of the things that we do at Sea Women Expeditions, we're a STEAM team. So we have artists on our roster, and we actually really incorporate arts quite heavily into our science projects, because again, art can touch in ways that, so, you know, some scientists can't, or science can't. So we like the accommodation. It's a real beautiful cerebral playground to be in a team with scientists and artists and photographers and divers. It's just really diverse, and we learn a lot from each other because of that.
Spectacular. What a great answer. GDCI 7B, Ms. Goddard's group. I'm going to come to you guys if you have a question for us. Amy Goddard, come on in and say hi, guys. Hello. Hi. I know. I'm excited to be on camera too.
Is that better be a good one? What is it? Okay, I hope so.
Hey, what's up?
No,
So I was
actually,
just,
good question.
What's up?
I was wondering, what kind of gear do you guys need when you go scuba diving?
Great question.
I'm
We need
glad you
lots of gear. Hold on.
Oh, we've got props. Yes.
We have props.
Okay, so this is my dry suit. That underneath that, I wear like a base layer, an undergarment, and then I put that on over the top, which my dive school, Morecambe Area Divers, sponsored me and got me my own made-to-measure dry suit from Typhoon International. And that is, you know, helps keep us warm. And then the snorkel, mask, gloves, hood, and then that helps keep us, warm in the water until it gets towards the end of the day and your hands are absolutely freezing. But
Yeah.
so that's the dry suit.
Yeah.
Cool.
Very cold water. Great question.
I was going to just note for our classes too, every time scuba diving gets brought up, I want to note the classes. All our classes, in fact, joining today, you guys are old enough. Once you get to be 8 years old, you can start in the path, and Patty Bubble Maker is the name of the course, to becoming a scuba diver. And when you become a scuba diver, it opens up 70+% of the world to you in a way that it's simply not accessible if you don't have that skill. So if you get a chance to go to a local pool, even if you're super landlocked, there's almost always a scuba diving training thing, and you can end up like Sarah and Whitley, who just have this incredible opportunity to explore the world around them. So thanks for sharing that, ladies. Northern Eights, if you guys want to unmute your mic and come on in live. Hello. Yes,
Hello.
I know you came in like seconds after we got underway, but I'll welcome you in. If you want to unmute, I can come to you guys for a question in a minute. Someone's going to go up to the camera to do that. And while you're doing that, I will take one from one of our YouTube friends, which is, what's the record for the largest orca in the world? No pressure. You know offhand? Exactly.
Well, I will say this is a Google thing that we can do. So there is this massive orca that is off the east coast of the United States. His name is Old Tom. He's really unique because he travels alone, and orca are usually very social creatures, but he is this massive bull. He's so big. I highly recommend looking up Google pictures of him. He's got to be one of the biggest. I don't know for sure if he is, but he is definitely a great representation on how big males can get. And what's funny is orca, actually, they hunt porpoise. And Old Tom, even though he's this big, just like bulky male, he actually travels with really cute little porpoises all the time. It's a really weird juxtaposition. But yeah, look up the orca Old Tom off the east coast of the United States.
There's so many facets of that answer that I love. And most importantly, this idea that, you know, individual animals are now trackable. And whether it's orca, whether it's great white sharks, there's a lot of species now that scientists have this sort of like ongoing relationship with, where you know them individually. And I think that's such a special way of conveying the magic of biology. I mean, they're not just this generic, you know, XTCD974, it's Old Tom, and that really gets people to connect with it in such a special way. So thank you for that. And by the way, the porpoise thing, so we talked about them being the apex predator. I like highlighting for students that both blue whales have been eaten by orca, that's been observed, and great white sharks. So you've got sort of the biggest animal ever to exist, and what people think of as the, you know, most awesome predator in the ocean, and orca just want nothing of it. They're the kings.
Yep.
Northern Aids, you guys are good. Your mic's unmuted, so I'm going to come back to you. Take us away. Hey.
What camera equipment do you use to take pictures underwater?
Nice question. Camera equipment. Do you have props for that?
GoPros.
I should have brought my GoPro.
Yeah.
Yeah, they actually, again, they sponsored and donated some to us.
Yep.
So that we could use them all for capturing video footage. And they have great batteries as well that last in the cold weather. Because obviously it's so cold out there, normal batteries would die very quickly, whereas you can get like Enduro ones for the GoPro and they last all day.
Yeah, they're great for capturing footage and audio. We got some amazing Orca calls on our GoPro. So super accessible technology. Highly recommend getting it for yourself.
We have a hydrophone as well, but yeah, we've been managing to capture them on GoPros.
It's always incredible when a technology that your everyday person either has or could very easily get can be used for such incredible research. I think we all sort of expected it would be like a camera this big that costs $20,000. One person can use it, right? So that's fascinating. Very cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of gear, Miss Alexander's class joining us also in Ontario. I love this question. I don't know if this is the case. They love your toques and they want to know if they can buy some to help fund your expedition. Is that something that you guys do or have on your site? Because they're pretty cool.
Well, we can.
You know what? Miss Alexander, I know you we email a lot. So if any classes are interested in the toques and want to see some of the stuff, again, the website's seawomen.com @seawomenexpeditions if you want to find them on a lot of social media platforms, and all their links are on the website. But reach out to us at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, and we could maybe set that up if you were at all keen to help buy some GoPros or buy some dry suits. Very, very cool. We're going to go back to our live classes in a second. We had a class that couldn't make it live today. They're going to watch it later, but they had a question for you. So they wanted to share, how long are the expeditions, and are you two going to be on all of them, or is it just a 120-day thing? You talked about 10 days in, 10 days to go. What's the status on the ship?
So I've been here from day one, and I'm here all the way through to the end. So I'm on all 3 cohorts because I'm co-leader of the expedition.
Yes.
And I'm here for basically a month. And Whitley is on cohorts 2 and 3.
Yeah.
So she joined this week and she'll be with me until the end now. So
Yeah, but I will say, even though we're doing this with 3 different cohorts, this has been 3 years in the making, almost 3 years. So there's a lot leading up to an expedition, and Sarah and I and a lot of the team members have just been working hard for a long time to make this happen. So shout out to women.
Seriously, I'm really glad you mentioned that, because I think people assume, you go and you just get on the ship and go. And I mean, it's sometimes a decade of planning for something this big, where you get so many people coming from around the world. So it's really important to highlight that preparation is such an important facet to this. The point where we're showcasing the findings to the world is sort of like that tip of the spear, last step. All the work that went into it was really, really key. So thank you for that, ladies. We've got another question online, and then I'm going to head back to our GDCI group. So has anyone got bitten by an orca? And I'm going to segue this to, are orcas a threat to people anyway? You guys are swimming very casually around them. What's the deal with that?
So there's no records of orcas attacking humans here during this activity. There's been no fatalities in the wild. That's something that's only happened in captivity.
Which, I mean, I don't know whether it's good that that's the case. I think if orcas did attack people, we probably would have tried to wipe them out. So I'm really glad that they don't view humans as food or something that they want to mess with.
They're mainly fish eaters here as well. So
yeah. Great question, guys. All right, GDCI, we're going to come back to you. Come on in. Hey.
Hi. Okay. How did you volunteer? How did you find out about the program?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a graphic designer, and I quickly learned that through volunteer work, I could support the causes that I cared about most. So I actually had done a ton of volunteer work for various organizations over the years. And then I was told about our founder, Susan R. Eaton, and Sea Women Expeditions. So I ended up going on her Facebook and Sea Women Expeditions Facebook and just digging around and being like, oh, who's all involved in this? And then there was an ad that said women wanted for an Arctic expedition to Norway. And I applied because I was like, well, you know, I want to join. I want to see if I can do it. And she accepted me as an applicant. And 3 years later, here we are. So I think a piece of advice is if you care about something, volunteer for it, because it's all about meeting people. It's all about putting in the time, and it leads to really incredible opportunities.
Yeah. What's your story too? I'm curious about your backdrop.
So I saw the same ad as Whitley. So my background is in marine biology anyway. So I follow lots of like marine related groups and organizations on social media. And I came across Sea Women Expeditions, and I saw the same advert. I was actually in hospital recovering from meningitis at the time. And yeah, I'd missed out on a field trip that I was meant to be going on that week. So I was feeling pretty sorry for myself. And I saw that advert that was women wanted for hazardous journey, you know, honor and recognition in case of success. But it take on Shackleton's ad basically. And I just thought, yeah, I'll apply for that. And I just applied.
Here we are. This is like a super effective ad. Like, way to go, Susan. She put it in all the right places. Yeah. This is very cool. Yeah. But I'm so glad both of you mentioned this idea of just rooting around, searching for these opportunities. And this is something that we like to highlight with our students a lot. Like, whether you're interested in astronomy, if you're interested in diving, if you're interested in, you know, being at a zoo, reach out to people that are doing cool work in those areas and tell them how passionate you are. And amazingly, that works really, really well. Scientists and explorers don't bite. Like, they are so keen to find people that are as excited about things as they are. And it's amazing the opportunities that have come out of that sort of outreach. So I'm really glad you both mentioned that. All right, Northern Eights, I'm coming back to you guys live. Come on in. Hey.
Where does the majority of your funding come from?
Yes, the funding question.
Well, I can only speak for myself. A lot of it comes from my amazing GoFundMe supporters, my own savings, and then, of course, just being really good at side hustles and selling graphic design work. And then, of course, we have great sponsors for gear. We have Save the Dock that donated our jackets. Yep. Our sponsor for our ship, our research vessel, is Waterproof Expeditions. Right. And then, of course, Garmin has donated gear. So we have a lot of amazing support system behind us, but a lot of it is self-funded for sure.
Yeah. It's so interesting to me that the funding question from grade 8 students and up never used to be asked. And it's only in the last 3 years that almost every program we have grade 8s and over, they'll ask that question. So scientific and sort of exploratory enterprises generally are funded by a lot of groups. Sometimes it's government, sometimes it's big business. And this is something that a lot of groups have started to foster these partnerships with around the world. You're starting to see more and more expeditions like Sea Women Expeditions sort of being made possible because there's increased interest in exploring the world, the universe, the deep sea around us. And so I'm really glad you asked that. You can check into any expedition page, and typically websites will have sponsor lists, partner lists, and those organizations tend to be fairly similar. There's a few big groups that tend to do a lot of the work to help support amazing programs like this. So great question, guys. We talked about ethograms so much in the program, and I'm really curious. So the whole idea here is that we're going to get a baseline of understanding for the orca to make sure that we're not exploiting them anyway. We're not doing too much over-tourism. We're not bothering them when we don't need to. Are there examples out there of any other animals where we've done ethograms in the past and that has informed how we do sort of ecotourism with them? Gorillas, maybe manta rays. Is there any example that you can share with us?
I'm pretty sure it's a common thing that's been done in the past with a variety of animals. So in ethology, where you study animal behaviour, you'll carry out ethograms and you gather that data. So like another example in the UK, I used to do seal behaviour observations for the local wildlife trusts. And other marine mammal surveys for different organisations, and you gather that data. It gives you information about what they use as feeding grounds and breeding grounds, the important areas and habitats that they use for specific purposes and things like that, and how they respond to different disturbances. And then all of that information gets used to inform conservation management and policies and marine protected areas and all that kind of thing. So yeah, ethograms and behaviour observations are widely used in conservation management.
I'm so glad too that you used the phrase ethology. So I was an ethology nerd as a child. Like my whole life was like Richard Dawkins, Nico Tinbergen, Conrad Lorenz, like these original sort of icons of animal behavior study. And it's just such an exciting field and almost no one ever mentions it. So thank you very much for highlighting that. I'm really glad that there's research like this going on. Like, this is something that as more and more people travel the world and get to engage with animals, and it's such a special opportunity to be in the water or be near an orca, or, I mean, you can come up with 100 examples of incredible wildlife. And it's sort of only in the last few decades that there's been science put towards understanding to make sure that we're not impacting those animals in a negative way. And I'm so glad you guys are up to that on Sea Women Expedition. So thank you for sharing all that. YouTube classes, don't be shy. I know there's a bunch of you, and some of you might not have YouTube accounts, so it's tricky to share a question when you don't have one of those. But if you want to share additional questions, please do. You've got a few more minutes. But I'm going to head back to our 2 live classes for another couple. GDCI, come on in, 7B. Hi.
Arlo, word it correctly.
What's the most dangerous thing that's ever happened to you while you were like on one of the expeditions? Like, do you have to like fight a fish?
The danger question.
But I
No danger. We're safe all the time.
well, when I first got here, I put my kneecap out, just pushing my suitcase over a lip in the cabin. So I proper put my kneecap out, and I just was like, oh my God, I saw that whole expedition like fall away before my eyes. And I was like, just smacks my kneecap back in, but I'm fine now. But that's probably the most dangerous thing that's happened to me on expedition here.
Be careful when you're walking in the ship. How about you? Is there another danger story? No? This is good. This is why you guys prepared for so many years. Is to not have dangerous situations.
That was on land.
I wasn't even on the boat. I was just in a cabin on land before I'd even made it to the ship.
Well, I'm going to knock on wood here because nothing crazy dangerous has happened. Obviously, we come to these expeditions so prepared. Yes. We make sure we have the right equipment. We get a lot of safety training. So it's not anything too dangerous. I don't know if you guys can hear, but like we are actually in the bridge of our captain's deck, and there's like radio in the background. So apologies if there's a little bit of like fuzz.
Yeah, I was just saying, because we're really well looked after as well by the crew,
yep.
The waterproof crew on board, and we've got fantastic guides as well, Johnny and Debbie, who are really experienced, and you know they're not going to put us in any dangerous situations, and they're here like working with us and supporting us as well. So yeah.
I think it's, you know, certainly when I was growing up, I was excited by danger. It's like, wow, cool, you know, you're risking life and limb every single day. And the thing that we get universally, like astronauts, cave divers, people on expeditions in the Arctic, is that there shouldn't be danger. Like if there's danger, if you're risking life and limb every day, something's gone very wrong in the expedition, because 3 years of prep have gone into that to get the right people, to get the right resources to mitigate that risk. You know, you're on a ship, you're out in the ocean, that's probably the biggest risk that could happen. But again, there are people there to make sure that, you know, you're not going to risk any damage in a storm. You're not going to crash into anything. You've got people that are, you know, there to make the case for that. So I'm really glad we got that question. Great job, man. Northern Eights, you know what? Time flies when you're having fun. So we're going to take just a couple more questions before we wrap up. But Northern Eights, if you want to come back in, take us away.
Yeah, go.
Do you get personal attachments to the orcas and name them?
Ooh, I love this question.
Well, of course we get personal attachment. We don't actually get to name the orca that we're seeing here out in Norway. But there are nicknames, like one of the orca that we've been seeing actually a couple of days in a row now. He's this massive bull, and he's got this significant damage to his dorsal fin. We don't know how he got that damage, but we've been calling him Big Nick. So we're hoping we get to see him every day moving forward. He's a beautiful male orca with a really gnarly fin. He looks like he's been through some stuff, lived through some stuff. So we hope to get to see him tomorrow.
Yeah. I'm really glad we get this question, because I mean, growing up, again, when you put a name to something, it really does make it more, it fosters that connection. I think Jane Goodall was probably the first person to ever really do that seriously. I know she was much maligned for it back when she did that with chimpanzees. You know, why would they get a human name? It makes no sense. But it has led to so much change in the field of animal behavior study, of biology in general, where people have that connection. So great question. I want to note too, before we wrap up, I'm going to put this in the chat for everyone and on YouTube, but we talked about orca hunting strategies earlier in the broadcast, and Frozen Planet 2, which is the new documentary series by the BBC, has the most incredible, insane, intelligent hunting strategy in the world of orcas in Antarctica. So I really encourage people to check that out, and I put the link both places where people can see it. Sarah Whitley, is there any last message you want to share with us about Sea Women Expeditions, about the work that you've got going in the next 10 days before you wrap up, before we end the broadcast?
Just that obviously we're having an amazing expedition here, and we're joined by so many different people from so many different places with so many different skill sets. We're also carrying out eDNA analysis, which collecting water samples, taking CDT profiles. There's the hydrophone, there's art projects. Everybody brings something to the table, and we're all here working really well together, looking after each other, and also doing some really cool scientific research as well. So I'm just really, really happy to be here. And I mean, it's just incredible. Yeah.
Yes, I love this. It's such an amazing opportunity. It's such an amazing expedition. You ladies are up to such incredible stuff. And again, there's so many ways that people can learn more about what you're doing. Get involved. Maybe buy toques. We're going to try and set that up with Miss Alexander's class, and maybe like a lucrative going forward. We'll fund another leg of the expedition with toque sales. But seawomen.com, at Seawomen Expeditions for more. You mentioned eDNA. eDNA is one of those sciences that the first time I heard of it, my jaw just dropped. I was like, what on earth is this? How cool is this? December 2nd, we've got our eDNA program with the team on board the ship at 1 Eastern time. So please do check us out for that. And this program, of course, will be on our YouTube channel as well if people want to find out more. But I just love that you focused on the fact that it's such a collaborative, exciting venture. It's people coming from all over the world to work together towards a common goal that has a positive benefit for mankind in one of the most special places on this planet. So you have, right to be as enthusiastic as you are. And what we do to wrap up every broadcast, I'm going to bring in our live classes. So Northern 8's GDCI, if you classes want to join me in saying a big thank you and farewell to Sarah and Whitley, you are in the broadcast. Thank you so much. Hey!